And I want to start the meeting with that, so go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Wayman Britt, and pursuant to Governor Whitmer's Executive Order 2020-48, the Finance and Fiscal Resources Committee of the Kent County Board of Commissioners, in order to protect the public health, will conduct its meeting via electronic communications. Any member of the public wishing to listen to the proceedings or provide public comment may do so by using the following internet connection or phone numbers and passcode. Any interruptions or disruptions of the meeting by using offensive language or actions may be removed, and we will shut that down. So there's a HTTP, there's a website address there, there's phone numbers there for you to call on the screen. If you would like to do public comment, you have the opportunity to do so and be recognized by Finance Chair Diane Jones. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. And with that, we will open with item number 1 on our agenda, which is public comment. So Mary Beth has the public comment approach for this. So if there is any public comment, now would be the time to make your comments.
Nothing yet. There is no public comment so far.
We'll give it enough time. I know that technology can need some additional time in the mix, so we'll give it. Again, this is the call for public comment. If there is any public comment for the Fiscal and Finance and Fiscal Resources Committee this morning, now is the time to make public comment.
There are none. We're good.
Okay, with that, I will close public comment and move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, so we had moved by Commissioner Antor, support by Commissioner Voorhees. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yes.
All right. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Forgive me, I couldn't find my hand raising function. I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a clarification for procedure. I know that in our full board meeting, we were using roll call votes for each of our decisions. Will we be doing the same here in committee?
Correct.
Thank you. That was my only question.
All right. Any other questions on the consent agenda? All right. Seeing none, we will take a roll call vote to pass the consent agenda.
Pam, can you call it?
Yep, I got it. Okay. Commissioner Antor.
Yes.
Breavy.
Yes.
Bukowski.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
Sparks.
Yes.
Voorhees.
Yes.
Womack.
Yes.
Wooden.
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes. The consent agenda passes. That brings us to item number 3 from Fiscal Services. Wayman, would you go ahead and
Sure.
read the action request?
You bet. This is a request of the Board of Commissioners to appropriate $9,015 to the 2019 Zoo and Museum Millage Fund budget to match actual revenue collections. The Board of Commissioners authorized a dedicated millage for the John Ball Zoo and Grand Rapids Public Museum via Resolution 11/17/16-107. The dedicated funding is used for the care of animals and artifacts, repair and improvements of exhibits, and enhanced educational programs. Actual 2019 millage collected was $10,200,000 or $9,000 more than the current amended appropriation due to the higher than expected revenues from the local community stabilization share. The $9,000 will be split between the zoo millage at $4,400, and the museum village, $4,500. This action item is not an activity related to COVID-19.
Thank you, Wayman. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
All right, we have motion by Commissioner Voorhees. I heard support from Commissioner Breve. Any questions or comments on this item? Waiting for questions and comments from the board members for agenda item 3.
Okay.
No hands raised either.
No hands raised?
Correct.
All right, why don't we go ahead and call the vote? Pam, would you please roll call?
Yep, Commissioner Antor,
Yes.
Breve,
Yes.
Bukowski,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Voorhees,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Wooden.
Sorry,
Wooden.
I forgot to unmute. Yes.
And Chair Jones.
Yes,
Motion
That-
passes.
motion passes. That will bring us to item 4 from Kent County Community Action. Wayman, would you please read the action item?
Sure. This is a recommendation of the Board of Commissioners to appropriate $16,000 in unrestricted funds received from Clear Salt, a contractor selected by Consumers Energy, to the 2020 Special Project Fund. The Kent County Community Action Agency has received $16,000 in unrestricted funds from Clear Salt for use on energy assistance, food assistance, and other necessities. These unrestricted funds were designated to Kent County Community Action for removing 32 old energy inefficient refrigerators from homes and replacing them with new energy efficient models. These funds will be used when the client cannot afford necessities and there are no other community resources identified that can meet the need. The action item is not an activity related to COVID-19.
Thank you, Wayman. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to move, support.
Or-
Motion to, you know.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner Antor. Is that correct?
Nope.
Okay, who supported it?
Support.
Okay, support by Commissioner Womack. Are there questions, comments, or discussion on agenda item 4 from the board, from the finance board members?
Hands raised.
You said no hands raised, Wayman?
Correct. Nobody's
All
raising
right.
their hand.
With that, let's go ahead and call the roll, Pam, for the vote.
Commissioner Antor,
Yes.
Commissioner Breve,
Yes.
Bukowski,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Commissioner Voorhees,
Yes.
Commissioner Womack,
Yes.
Commissioner Wooden,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes,
And that motion passes.
the motion passes. That will bring us to item number 5 on the agenda, also from Kent County Community Action. Wayman, would you please read the action request?
Sure. This is a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners to appropriate $102,000 from program income from home and the Community Development Block Grant programs to the Community Development Special Project Fund. The county's Community Action Agency has received $102,000 in unplanned program income for home and CDBG in the Community Development Special Project Fund. Home funds in the amount of $4,900 were captured from a home sale and will be put back into the program to assist other home buyers. The CDBG funds in the amount of $97,600 were received from rehab loan payments client's portion of minor home repairs and access modifications. These funds will be put back into the CDBG programs for similar projects. The Kent County Community Action Agency is requesting an additional appropriation of $102,600 for unplanned program income to the Community Development Special Project Fund. This action is not an activity related to COVID-19.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Support.
When we do motions, can we say the name first and the support of your name? So let's do that again. I need a motion from Commissioner.
Motion by Commissioner Womack.
Thank you.
Support by Brevi.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or discussion on item number 5 on our agenda? Anything coming up, Wayman?
No hands raised. No one's wanting to make comment.
All right, with that, Pam, would you please call the roll for agenda item number 5?
Commissioner Antor.
Yes.
Brevi.
Yes.
Bulkowski.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
Sparks.
Yes.
Voorhees.
Yes.
Womack.
Yes.
Wooden.
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you. That will bring us to item number 6 on our agenda, also from Kent County Community Action. Wayman, would you please read the action request?
Sure. This is a request to the Board of Commissioners to appropriate $418,000 from reserves to the 2019-20 Kent County Community Action Fund to be transferred back to the general fund. Michigan Department of Education provides federal pass-through funds to support food distributions, along with food to be distributed to persons throughout Kent County in need of nutritional assistance. In 2018 through 19, $418,000 was transferred to the Community Action Fund from the general fund to subsidize a deficit that existed within the Emergency Food Assistance Program and Commodity Supplemental Food Program at year end due to the Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement number 54, which requires that inventory be presented as non-spendable fund balance. To reimburse the general fund, an additional budget appropriation to the Kent County Community Action Fund in the amount of $418,000 is required. Community Action is requesting an additional appropriation of $418,000 from reserves to the Kent County Fund effective December 31, 2019. This action item is not related to COVID-19.
Can I please have a motion to approve?
Motion by Brevi.
Support by Womack.
Okay, we have moved and supported. We will now take questions, comments, and discussion on item number 6.
Commissioner Wooden has a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just, when reading this over, I was a tad confused. So was the reason there was a deficit because more people sought the service than the grant monies that we accepted could provide? Or was it that because there was inventory left over that had to be presented as reserves or non-spendable fund balance that we had to essentially shore it up for, as it mentions, for accounting standards? And as a result, are we essentially taking the funds that were deemed non-spendable fund balance and bringing that back over to the general fund? I'm just a little bit confused whether or not, are we essentially paying back the general fund with new dollars that came in this year from the MDE grant, or are we simply taking the money that we had to deem as reserves last year and using those now to pay back the general fund?
Madam Chair, there's a couple people on the phone that can probably get into a lot of the details of that question. So let's either have Jeff Dode or Susan Cervantes from Community Action handle those two questions, if you don't mind.
Sure, why don't we start with Jeff?
So I believe it was the latter, the accounting thing, but Susan's got more details. I was not here during that transfer, so, and Marvin is also on the phone who was here when the transfer was made. So Susan, do you want to start?
No.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi. It was the latter of the two descriptions. Our food that we purchase each year is given to us as an allocation, but we never see the funding for it. We have like this bank on a system, and we can spend up to about $1.2 million in food. But when we're buying food for any of our programs, we're about 9 months to 6 months ahead of time. And so that's why it was in the reserves.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Doesn't appear to be any other questions, Madam Chair.
All right, let's go ahead and do the roll call vote, please, Pam.
Commissioner Antor. Commissioner Antor.
Sorry, yes.
Breivy. Commissioner Breivy. Commissioner Breivy. Commissioner Bukowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan.
Yes.
Commissioner Sparks.
Yes.
Yes.
Womack.
Yes.
Wooden.
Yes.
And Chair Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Thank you. That will bring us to agenda item number 7 from the sheriff. Wayman, would you please read the action request?
This is a request to the Board of Commissioners to accept the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program grant from the Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance to appropriate $93,000 to the 2020 Sheriff's Special Project Fund contingent upon grant award, and to authorize the board chair designee to execute grant agreements, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. The Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Grant is a federal program granted through the U.S. Department of Justice, and it's designed to provide funding to assist local units of government in preparing for, and responding to the coronavirus. Kent County will receive $93,300 through the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program. The Sheriff's Office will be responsible to administer the program. The funding will be utilized by the Sheriff's Office to prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus, primarily purchasing personal protection equipment and support overtime costs in relation to the coronavirus emergency. The grant period begins on January 20th, 2020 and runs for 2 years. This action item is an activity related to COVID-19.
Okay, is there a
Moved
motion?
by Voorhees.
Supported by
Supported
Sparks.
by more.
All right, moved by Voorhees, supported by Sparks, and I did understand that we might have some computer issues with Commissioner Breivy. So Commissioner Breivy, if you can still hear us, I suggest you call in instead of, she's good. Okay. So if there are computer issues as we go on with this, please feel free to discontinue using the Zoom and use the phone option. I used the phone option for quite some time prior to this. So the phone option is something you can join while the meeting is in progress. So with that being said, we have a motion moved and supported. We'll take questions, comments, and discussion on item number 7.
Commissioner Bukowski has a question.
Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions for the Sheriff's Department related to this request in the sense of understanding the need for PPE
Was wondering what the experience has been this last month related to deployment of staff, meaning I know we spent a lot of time on road patrol and accidents and things like that, and with very few people driving. Are we actually seeing a reduction of time spent out on the road? And then also looking at experiences in the jail, if there's any issues related to COVID-19 in the jail, and it's trying to contain it there.
Sheriff may be on the line, or the undersheriff, I'm not sure.
I am.
They are. Yes.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I can answer both of those questions. So largely we're doing pretty well on staffing right now. We divided the entire staff into our 3 primary mandatory mission areas: dispatch, law enforcement, road patrol, and corrections. And we have broken those groups into have a small portion of each staff in a resting, working from home scenario, so that if I were to be hit by an entire shift of COVID positive individuals, I have reinforcements that can come in and work. And that's based on the experience that we've witnessed throughout the country, where the coronavirus has hit hard in the community. It's not 1 or 2 officers, it's an entire shift with their officers. So that being said, our overtime experience has really been very low, with the exception of those individuals that are supporting the health department in an emergency management capacity. So we have full-time communications, the emergency manager. We have also supplemented the emergency manager with supervisors from training and dispatch to just augment that, because it's a 24/7 operation. So that's where we're normally seeing the overtime. It's not typically on our general response officers or even in corrections. And then also, as we prepared initially for the coronavirus processes, we had a lot of planning overhead that had to take place both in the corrections and on law enforcement. So that's where we are not seeing daily overtime today as we're continuing operations. Our call load, if that was part of your question, and I think it was, is pretty typical for, let's say, our first quarter, with the exceptions of a blizzard or some major traffic event where we would have a large number of accidents. We are still responding to a substantial number of calls. We're averaging about 43 a day, and the highest call volume thing that we're responding to is actually investigation of somebody who's called in a complaint on the executive order violation. So we do go to every single one of those violations. We do take a educate and warn process with each of those. We work with them to get in compliance. If that doesn't work, we do refer over to the prosecutor's office. As of this date, we have not had to write any citations for people who refuse to cooperate. And knock on wood, we keep it that way. Our community's been pretty cooperative. Beyond that, we've had a 35% increase in domestic assault calls for service in the county, and that's pretty it's pretty consistent throughout all agencies in Kent County right now. So we're working with the YWCA to help really educate and do reach out to people who are in a vulnerable population. And I'm not sure if that answered all your questions. I don't have any COVID positive officers as of today, and I do not have, and I'm knocking on wood, we do not have any COVID positive inmates as of today.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. That definitely answers it.
One other note, just for you guys to understand, I have a bed capacity of 1,477. As of this morning, we're around 675 in custody. And a lot of that has to do with everything that the courts did to release vulnerable population. out of the correctional facility, or to suspend sentences to a later date, or to reduce bonds so people were able to get out on their own. So that is a large component of why we've been successful in the correctional facility, creating isolation quarantine areas and keeping inmates safe.
Chair, looks like Commissioner Wooden has a question.
Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a quick follow-up to Commissioner Volkowski's questions. The citation numbers that you cited, is that exclusively those in our county dispatch? Did that include the numbers from the Grand Rapids dispatch? And if not, could we get similar statistics from the Grand Rapids dispatch, just so we can get a stronger picture of how things are going?
I can't answer for Grand Rapids Police Department specifically, but in terms of writing citations for violations of the executive order, we do not have any violations written here. I can only speak for our agency. I would have no access to those other numbers. But the domestic violence calls, we can see the general nature of calls for all area departments when they're responding, and that is consistent throughout the county. All areas that I know of are seeing a very dramatic increase in domestic violence calls. Doesn't mean there's necessarily a violation when they get there. It just means that was the nature of the call when we were sent out.
Do we have any questions specifically related to agenda item 7, which is the passing of this grant? Wayman, do you see anything?
Nothing out there, Chair.
All right, let's go ahead and take a roll call vote, please, for agenda item 7.
Commissioner Antor.
Yes.
Breavy.
Yes.
Volkowski.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
Sparks.
Yes.
Voorhees.
Yes.
Womack.
Yes.
Wooden.
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 8 on our agenda from the Veterans Services. Wayman, would you please read the action request?
Yes, this is a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate the 2020 County Veterans Services Fund grant in the amount of $221,000 from the Michigan Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, and to authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. The Michigan Veteran Affairs Agency has accepted the Kent County application for the 2020 CVSF grant in the amount of $221,000. Grants are provided to counties for county veteran services operations, which include providing assistance, programming, and services for the purpose of assisting veterans in the state and providing advice, advocacy, and assistance to veterans, service members, dependents, or survivors by an accredited veteran services officer to obtain health, financial, or memorial benefits for which they are eligible. The grant funding will be used on an aggressive 5-month advertising campaign to increase public awareness of all the county services initiatives, helping to engage more veterans, survivors, and dependents by connecting them with earned benefits. And it will be used on projects that include free dental services, beds for veterans, and a women's equine retreat, service dogs for veterans, and a 5K race. The grant begins once the grant agreement is signed by both Kent County and the state of Michigan, and ends in September 30th, 2020. The action item is not an activity related to COVID-19.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Motion Sparks.
Support Wooden.
Support.
All right. Moved and supported. And we'll take questions, comments, and discussion on item 8 at this time.
Commissioner Wooden has a question.
Yes, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question regarding the dental services. Do we have a firm estimate, either through tracking with our local VA or through our own Veteran Services Department, how many veterans in our county cannot obtain dental insurance through a spouse or an employer. By the way I read it, the VA does not necessarily provide dental coverage, but it could be provided through another means. I'm just wondering, do we have an actual number of how many veterans have no access to dental service in Kent County?
Sure. Martha Burkett, the Veteran Services Office manager, is on the line, so she could answer that probably.
Good morning. This is Martha Burkett. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I do not have that number. What I do know is that as we're setting up this free dental service, one of the criteria is that the veteran has to prove that he doesn't have any other coverage. But I don't know the number of veterans that do not have any coverage at all in Kent County. I can try to dig and find that and provide that to you at a later date.
Great. And I had two other follow-ups, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you. I think by you saying that this is a newer service, this answers my other question, but have we ever used our veteran service millage dollars to increase dental services for veterans, or is this our first time appropriating any money to do so?
To my knowledge, this is the first time that we've ever tried to provide any dental services. And just to clarify, that money won't be coming out of the millage money, it's coming out of the state grant fund money. And it's a special initiative. So it's actually what it is a one-day event. We have a dentist who has agreed to close her office to the general public for a full day. She has another dentist who's coming in with her. They'll have 4 hygienists, and they'll be able to provide dental services, kind of routine things for veterans on that one day. And so that's the way that that's going to work. And it's something that we might look into in the future. We just kind of wanted to pilot this and see how it goes. But so it'll be for veterans who meet the criteria that I just described. They have to have been they have to have been honorably discharged. They have to be able to demonstrate that they don't have any other coverage, and they have to live in Kent County.
Thank you. The reason I was asking these questions, and this leads to my third point, which is more of a comment, but in reviewing the grant summary, I did have pause that half of our grant is going towards television advertising. I understand publicizing the services that we have that we are offering to veterans is very important because that increases our ability to serve folks. And I also, now knowing that the dental clinic is a pilot project, I could see why one wouldn't want to ramp up service so quickly. But I almost see that it is so very much within our wheelhouse. There is clearly a service gap, and I could see logical partners with the VA, with the Veterans Home, and identifying clients and seeing how this could be evolved into not just one-day service, but what can we do similar to how in the past counties ran healthcare payer services for those without insurance or those underinsured, by simply making sure that veterans in Kent County could have a dental checkup available to them, provided they're 200% of the poverty level or something of that nature. I could see these dollars being used a little more effectively, in my opinion. I will still be voting for it because I understand accepting grant dollars is very important. I have pause with when half of our budget goes to TV advertising and not to direct services for veterans themselves. And with that, I conclude my comments. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Wayman, anyone else?
Commissioner Antor has the question and comment.
Commissioner Antor?
Yes, first of all, I like the idea of this program to look at dental. That's critical with a lot of these guys. And I think, Martha, you recall we actually had a grant request with our 501c3 to provide some funding for that, which we did. Your general health and wellness, a lot of us derive from how good you take care of your teeth, and we've learned that from our health department. And the level of service arena is lagging, I think, and I'm going to vote yes on this very enthusiastically. And I hope this pilot program takes off and we see a lot of need that we can address, because I know there's money out there. We just need to appropriate it properly from the federal level down. and get these types of things taken care of instead of some of the furnishings at the VA. So I'll be voting very enthusiastically for this. And also I wanted to note that at the Veterans Home here on Monroe, those gentlemen have been in lockdown, and a few ladies have been in lockdown since this has started, since the virus. And that means they don't go out of their rooms. They don't get down to the cafeteria, no recreational activities. They're literally locked in those little rooms. And it's really sad to me that that's the best we can do. Nobody's in, nobody's out. And I hope everybody's thinking about them at this time. It seems like we could come up with a better idea than to have them locked in those tiny rooms right now. Give them a little bit of freedom somehow. So anyhow, don't forget about our veterans, and I will be voting yes on this. Thank you.
Okay, Wayman, do you have anyone else?
No one else.
Commissioner
All right, Pam.
Bukowski.
No, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Bukowski?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, just want to echo a couple of things what the commissioners just stated. I mean, I like Commissioner Antor. Definitely support all that we're doing below the advertisement campaign for veterans and reaching out. Not only are the veterans at the Veterans Home and lockdown, folks in pretty much every kind of institution is, various nursing homes. So definitely empathize with our veterans at the Veterans Home. However, with Commissioner Wooden, you know, I hate second guessing staff, but to call a TV only campaign an aggressive advertising campaign, I don't know if that's the I don't know. It just seems like a lot of money to do TV. I guess everybody's watching TV because they're sitting at home right now, but it doesn't seem comprehensive enough to reach out to our veterans, because as we learned through the process related to the veterans millage and the success that we've had connecting veterans to benefits, that's the key is finding the veterans and then letting them know everything that's out there, and then we fill in the gaps. You know, that being said, you know, I don't know if an aggressive phone campaign or whatever, but I mean, I definitely will support this. However, it just seems like a lot of money for TV commercials and only on one station. So if somebody likes Fox 17 or WZZM, they're just not going to hear the message. So I just have great pause on the first half of this grant plan, I should say.
Commissioner Sparks has her hand raised, and then Commissioner Womack.
Okay, Commissioner Sparks?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. I think that right now we really need to be mindful that media is going to be expensive because political ads are dominating the airwaves. And so they have to spend that money, that type of money, to be able to get the message out there. If everyone's at home right now is a great time. People are watching television. Of course, they're on their phones and things like that. But I trust the staff that they have done the numbers and the research, that they are in the right place to reach the audience that they need to reach. But right now, I agree with what you're saying. However, knowing the media world right now, airwaves dominated by political ads, they have to spend that money.
Okay, Commissioner Womack?
Yes, I do believe money has to be spent in advertising, but I believe that money has to be diversified. It also not only has to be targeted at the veterans. With some of the health initiatives that I support here in West Michigan, I found out there are a lot of our elderly veterans who have family members who have become their caretakers. So I believe we also need a message to families, like if you got a veteran in your family, let them know about these services that are coming. With it being one television station, I just believe with over 100 channels on cable, with all the digital media that we have and a lot of advertising has shifted to digital media, when we look at over 70 radio stations in Grand Rapids, Michigan, serving Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Kent County, over 70 radio stations, I just believe that money needs to be more diversified, and I'm hoping that with our great staff at Kent County during the COVID-19, I've learned that Kent County has done a lot of digital advertising, email situation, and being able to reach the public. So I hope all the commissioners and our staff, we can all pitch in and do what we can to help spread this message. I don't think one television station will be enough, but I do support this. It's a great program, and the fact that they are embarking upon dental to even bring that issue up, I think it's going to continue to grow, and we'll be able to serve our veterans better. So I just want to thank everybody that worked on this program, and I think next time we'll do a better job in the advertising. Thank you.
May I comment, please?
Yes, please.
Just in response to the concerns about the advertisement, it's all duly noted. I do want to clarify that this is not just one TV ad. It's not just targeted at veterans. So it's an entire campaign to include our inclusion on some talk shows and also to include opportunities to talk about of all of the initiatives that we're going to be rolling out with the grant fund, so we can highlight what it is that we're doing with women who have military sexual trauma and are going on this equine retreat, because we are now a WINK affiliate. So to highlight the fact that we're doing all that with women and that we're initiating this program, that's part of what will happen with the money. To talk about the dental day, to talk about what we're doing with our prize collaboration, to talk about veterans' needs and veterans' families' needs. So it's not just a single ad targeted at veterans. It will be kind of a multimedia thing, and we have the opportunity to be hitting not just television advertising through this campaign. It's more comprehensive than that, but I just wanted to clarify that information. But I definitely take note of the concerns and the suggestions that were made.
Okay, any other questions or comments, Wayman?
Commissioner Womack has his hands raised again.
Okay, Commissioner Womack, this is your second time.
Yes, I've got a question. I want to find out how that rumor got out there, or how Mr. Bukowski, Commissioner Bukowski, heard that it was one television station. And I also have a question for Mrs. Burkett on how they are using minority media to reach some of our minority veterans, and what successful campaigns have they had in the past with their advertising that this advertising works.
Chair, this is Wayman again. There's a document attached to the request that shows the initiative expenditures, which includes wood TV advertising, reception furniture, dental clinic, community rebuilder. So that's attached to the document. I believe that's where Commissioner Bukowski might have got that from. So just to clear that up. But I don't know if you could answer the other question, Martha, that he raised.
To my knowledge, I mean, I've been here a year and a half. To my knowledge, based on the history that I've learned from other people, there's never been any kind of a TV initiative. There was a period where we put signage on buses and that kind of thing, but we've never done this kind of a campaign. In answer to how are we targeting minorities specifically, to my knowledge, that's never been done, but it's definitely something that I would take into consideration and work on, perhaps with next year's grant funding.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there anyone else?
No one else, Chair.
All right, let's go ahead, Pam, and please roll call the vote for item number 8.
I'm sorry, this is Commissioner Antor. Commissioner Antor had a comment.
This is your second time as well.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Just a comment. I wasn't sure if this was attempted or not, but I don't know if you noticed, but all the local TV stations have joined together. It's kind of unprecedented to work together on this COVID crisis that we're seeing right now. And they're banding together to help get the word out and so on and so forth. Along those lines, these same stations do offer free PSAs to certain charities or certain initiatives. And I was wondering if we had reached out to them to see if we could get some of those free announcements that they're all known to give out from time to time. And I thought this would be a great subject for them to consider for public service announcements.
It has not happened yet, but that's a really great suggestion. Thank you.
And we do have a contact with one of the local TV stations. There are going to be a series of briefings from staff of the county related to COVID-19. So we do have one TV station that has already asked us to be a part of that. So we will continue to work that suggestion, Commissioner Antwerp.
I found out all four of the stations locally have, they like getting involved in veterans issues. So I think maybe if it was suggested to them that maybe we could do some PSAs, they would, you know, take advantage of that and let us use that format. So thank you for the time.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on agenda item number 8? All right, Wayman, are we good?
Yes, we're good. No other questions.
All right, Pam, would you please call the roll?
Yep. Commissioner Antor,
Yes.
Breivy,
Yes.
Bukowski,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Voorhees,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes.
That motion passes.
All right, that will bring us to item number 9 from Kent County Community Action. Wayman, would you please read the action request?
Sure. Yes, this is a request to the Board of Commissioners to approve the Kent County Community Actions federal funding passed through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services from the Department of Health and Human Services authorized by the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act to appropriate $1.6 million in revenue to the Community Services Block Grant, CARES Act Supplemental Program, and to authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant documents related to the funding and approve extensions and amendments and increases in the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, Public Law 116-136 allocates $1.6 million passed through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services program funds, the Kent County, for a special community services block grant program through the supplemental block program. The funds are to be used to address economic damage from COVID-19 pandemic. Eligible activities to support these goals are prevention and response efforts such as utility assistance, homelessness, mortgage payments, and purchase of personal products. The CSBG CARES Act supplemental grant differs from the existing CSBG grant by raising the poverty threshold from 125% to 200% and waives asset testing. This will allow the Kent County Community Action Agency to assist more of the community that would normally be excluded from traditional CSBG funds. The CSBG CARES Act supplemental grant will reimburse costs of eligible activities incurred for pandemic response with a period of performance starting April 1, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2022. The action item is activity related to COVID-19.
Thank you, Wayman. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved by Wooden.
Breivy.
Oh, support by Wooden.
Okay, moved by Breivy, supported by Commissioner Wooden. We will now take questions, comments, and discussion from the Finance and Physical Resources Committee members.
Commissioner Wooden?
Go ahead, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask I saw when reviewing the action request that a expenditure plan and a service plan had to be delivered to the State Department of Health and Human Services on April 17th. Can we get a copy ahead of the full board meeting? And could staff provide us a little more detail of how we plan to expend these funds? I saw in the staff memo from Friday summarizing the various grants that we're pursuing or have received in our COVID response that a little over 800,000 was being spent on specific assistance, and I believe a little over 400,000 was going to support. Could more detail be provided of what support means, what specific assistance means, and how these funds are going to be expended in the next few months.
Sure, there was an attachment also, Commissioner Wooden, to the agenda item, I believe, that has a lot more detail in there. I'm not certain if you received that, but we will make sure that you have that, plenty of that information before the board meeting. And I don't know, Susan Cervantes on the phone, Steve Dortre is on the phone too. They perhaps can give you a little bit more detail now if they're available.
Hello, yes. The grant that we received with the CSBG dollars are because we're a community action agency, and there's 3 categories in which you can place your funding. One is administrative, and that's so that you can do your administrative work. The fiscal services can allocate your funds and do your reporting, that type of thing. The support is the operation money to get the specific assistance out. It pays for staff, fringe, occupancy, all of those issues. And then the specific assistance is assistance that directly goes to clients. And so the primary focus is to prevent homelessness and everything that we're going to see as a result of the COVID-19. And so the $867,000 is specific assistance. So clients will directly receive that assistance in the form of rent payments, mortgage payments, deposits, utility assistance. We're going to put together a personal products pantry so that we can offer cleaning supplies, paper towels, toothpaste, toothbrushes, whatever people cannot get. And then a special needs response fund is going to be put together, and that is to address burials, and those have to be related to COVID. Any issues that might come up that are unique to the client.
Thank you very much. Yes, when reviewing the action item, I only saw the attachment from the state detailing how they could be spent, but not necessarily our own plans and how those if and thank you for the information, Ms. Cervantes. If we could get at least a copy of the expenditure plan, because I'm assuming the service plan will be a little bit larger, but the expenditure plan may be a briefer statement, however staff feels best to communicate to the board how in writing how we intend to spend these dollars would be great. And just thanks again for the information.
I can get you both of those.
Wayman, is there anything else?
No, there's no other questions at this time.
All right, Pam, would
Sorry,
you please?
Commissioner Bulkowski here. I don't know.
Yes, Commissioner Bulkowski.
Raise my hand kind of thing. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Susan, for the response. My quick question is, maybe it's not quick. Have you started to get a sense of the need out there? And I mean, $1.6 million is a significant amount of money, but how does it line up to the need? I do recall the one time I did watch local TV a month ago that y'all had food distribution at the Franklin campus, and you lined up cars, quarter mile long or more, and you ran out of food really fast. So anyways, the question of what kind of need are you experiencing? And especially when you raise the threshold up to 200% of poverty.
Those are great questions, and we do apologize for the traffic problems that we caused. We did not expect to run out of food. We did not expect the overwhelming response that we got. And what we chalked it up to is, we had made plans with the GRPD, and we had everything in place. And it wasn't because we weren't prepared. We just did not realize the panic that would happen, because we were one of the first agencies to do a food distribution. We thought we might get 800 households and we had everything lined up, but we found out the opportunities that we have in future food distributions. And in fact, we're having one on the 30th at the Deltaplex. And so we've learned our opportunities to serve the same amount of people with food, but we're going to do it differently. As far as what you're asking is that what we know now, and we're getting our information from our community needs assessment that we conducted last year, as well as the information from 211, and what we're seeing in that people right now are afraid of what's going to happen when they do not get a paycheck, and they're having quite a bit of trouble applying for unemployment. We're seeing some people that have gotten their stimulus checks, some people have not. And so we're responding to the COVID crisis in what's going to happen May, June, July, because we feel as if people right now might have gotten a last check from employment and then they're living on that, and then as they go forward. And so especially with the moratoriums on the evictions and the utility shutoffs, we haven't seen as many. But with the CSBG dollars, we are able to help if someone has a late notice and doesn't have a formal eviction. So what we're going to try to do is keep people in their housing so that they don't end up into the homeless shelters and those types of situations. So if we can be proactive in helping the people. We've had an increase of about 15% calls with people who are late with their payments and know that they can't make the payments, both with utilities and with evictions. So the majority of the money is going to go towards those two issues. But we have also received additional funding with, it's not on the agenda today, with ESG funds, which will help out with homelessness too. So we're really trying to connect all of the funding streams that we've gotten through the CARES Act so that we can meet the needs and have an impact.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Wayman, do you show anyone else?
No one else, Chair.
Okay, with that, let's go ahead and vote on agenda item number 9. Pam, would you please call the roll?
Yep, Commissioner Antler,
Yes.
Commissioner Breve,
Yes.
Bukowski,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Sparks, Commissioner Commissioner Voorhees,
Yes.
Commissioner Womack,
Yes.
Commissioner Wooden,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Thank you. That will bring us to item number 10 on our agenda from the Board of Commissioners. Wayman, would you please read the action request?
Yes, this is a request to reject the Officers Compensation Commission's recommendation for the chair, vice chair, and all the members of the County Board of Commissioners for 2021 and 2022, and reserve consideration of the recommendations for the treasurer, clerk register of deeds, drain commissioner, sheriff, and prosecuting attorney. Pursuant to the Michigan statute, Kent County established an Officers Compensation Commission to determine the compensation for the non-judicial elected officials of the county. The commission met as required by statute and issued separate recommendations for each of the 5 non-judicial elected officers, the board chair, the board vice chair, and the 17 board of commissioners. The LCC's recommendations were forwarded to members of the board of commissioners by the board chair. A copy of the correspondence and recommendation are attached. Unless rejected by the board, the recommendations of the OCC will go into effect on January 1, 2021. If rejected, salaries will remain at the current amounts for years 2021 and 22. The county is currently experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic and associated costs and challenges. Rejection of salary recommendation reflects only the salary increases of the Board of Commissioners who are considered part-time and does not impact the salary recommendations of the 5 non-judicial elected officers who are full-time status. Further evaluation related to the impact of COVID-19 will occur over the next several months. No action is required at this time on the recommendation of the Treasurer, Clerk, Register of Deeds, Drain Commissioner, Sheriff, and Prosecuting Attorney.
Thank you, Wayman. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved by Wooden.
Support by Sparks.
I'm sorry, was it moved by?
Wooden,
Sparks.
supported by Sparks.
All right, moved by Wooden and supported by Sparks. Can we have questions, comments, and discussion?
Commissioner Wooding has a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to commend this Operation Action. You know, I think in the end, as we're having so many of our own constituents and residents losing their jobs, having to file for unemployment, and worried about their own economic uncertainty in this moment, I don't think it's appropriate for us to take a pay increase, even if it's a cost of living adjustment. You know, given the fact that we are part-time, but also that we have to lead by example and share at least in some of the sacrifice. Certainly this, there are so many folks out there that are still struggling and financially this won't cover that. It at least shows that we, you know, understand the dynamics at play and we'll do our best to lead by example.
Commissioner Brady.
Commissioner Brady.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to echo those sentiments as well. You know, once this item came to my attention, it was a no-brainer to support this, you know, declining our increase. And just with the times that we're in, and I think we're going to be facing some more severe economic times in the near future, I think it's important that we lead by example. And, you know, there's also room to make additional cuts if necessary too, but this is a good, you know, way to start, and you know, I'm happy to support this.
Okay, Wayman, who's next?
No others at this time.
Commissioner Antor.
Go ahead, Commissioner Antor.
Thank you. Yes, I think in the last 12 years or so, I think this is at least the second time we've done something similar. I know about time when Roger was board chair. I think we may even took a pay cut that first year as a result of the recession that we were in the middle of that really messed things up. So yes, I am definitely going to support this, and I think we do need to lead by example. And we are public servants after all, and we're not doing this for the money. And this is the least we can do. So I'm very much supportive of this, and maybe other departments can follow suit. Thank you.
Commissioner Womack has a question.
Yes, Commissioner Womack.
Yes, I am in agreement also that we decline raising our wages as our country is struggling, workers are struggling. Some people have went from hunger to actually starvation. And just to know that people are struggling to get their unemployment compensation, those offices are just swamped. It does show a great sign to our constituents that we are in the struggle with them, and that their tax-paying money won't be going to give us a bump or a pay raise. Every dime that we have is going to help make Kent County a better county. And I just want to thank the rest of the commissioners who are on board to vote to decline those pay raises. Thank you.
Commissioner Bukowski has a hand up.
Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I definitely agree with this action as well. My question is more of process in the sense that these raises would not take effect until January 1st of 2021. And so I guess I'm curious why it's coming to finance with haste to the commission on Thursday, as opposed to going through LHR.
Linda, you want to address that one?
The standing rules, Commissioner, anything with that addresses finances of the county comes to finance. The statute does not require it to go through any standing committee because obviously every county's standing committee structure is different. So looking at our standing rules, the best place to bring it up through a committee was to finance, because we're not talking about a new position, obviously. These are existing elected official positions. And the only other place in our standing rules that deals with the OCC does not talk about it coming through standing committees at all. So deferring to finance was the best way to keep to our process, that things that go to the board come through a committee.
I definitely agree that it needs to come through a committee. It's just that, don't most of our labor contracts go through LHR first, and then they come to us at finance to deal with the financial ramifications of those contracts? Or am I getting that order mixed up?
You're not getting that order mixed up, but this isn't a labor contract.
Correct.
This is obviously a recommendation from the OCC that wouldn't go to the board at all if it absent a rejection. And so we are in unique territory in that I don't know from my 14 years here that the OCC recommendations have ever been rejected like this. So we look to the standing rules to find the best place to consider this, since it does impact the finances of the county, and the standing rules specifically say that items affecting the finances of the county come to finance. That's why it came here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else, Wayman?
No others, Chair.
All right, Pam, can we please get a roll call vote on agenda item number 10, please?
Yep, sure. Commissioner Antor,
Yes.
Breivy,
Yes.
Bulkowski,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Voorhees,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
and Chair Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Thank you. That will bring us to item number 11 for Commissioner Miscellaneous this morning. What Commissioner Miscellaneous will we start with? Wayman.
Commissioner Wooden has his hand up.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask staff, given just going off the list of grant funding that is either currently being procured or is in the pike, have we gotten any more clarification on what what type of services or ways that how we can expend the CARES Act direct assistance for domestic governments that we are seeking? Have we gotten more guidance on how those dollars can be spent, and do we have any more plans on our end on
There hasn't been,
spend them?
yeah, there hasn't been real clear definition on it. Just simply states that it has to be spent on COVID-related disease activities. And so what we've determined that those items would be for PPE for first responders, any Kent County employee, essential employee that's working on that, any supplies related to that, testing for COVID-19, so it could pay for additional machines and people to run those machines, test sites and set up staffing for PPE and other supplies. And it also could be used, perhaps we think, for supplies like thermometers that are used to take temperatures of people entering the county buildings, contact tracing, we've got that listed, a field hospital, if there was a need to set up a field hospital in a large location, purchasing and distribution of food, homeless shelters, an isolation for first responders, for instance, if we had to locate them in a different location, and hospitals to keep them from infecting their families, hazard pay, special compensation for staff, required to work on staff, supplies for medical examiner. These are the things that we believe that would fit under that category.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else for Commissioner Miscellaneous, Wayman?
No, none right here.
Well,
None
I'll
that-
just,
None right now.
None right now. Well, I will just jump into again to thank staff. This was our first committee meeting that went virtual, right, Wayman? We didn't have one for legislative yet, and this is the first finance one. So well done. And again, kudos to Adam London, to our staff, to our sheriff's department, to all of us for continuing to operate efficiently, effectively, safely with COVID and the challenges that we face with that. And I would just like to remind everyone to stay on top of our website. I continually watch the number of deaths, and those are real people, and it's heartbreaking. And I try to think of the number of people that I know every time I see those death numbers, and it's very sobering. And I think that is why we continue to have the processes we have and rely on our health department for doing the great job that they are.
Commissioner, Sheriff, could I just make a comment, please?
Please.
I'd just like to give a shout out to the IT team, especially Angie Dickinson, and of course, Mary Van Til, who's here helping out, as well as Al Jano in the room facilities, because this room that's we're using for this meeting was outfitted several months ago. And of course, we're taking full advantage of the technology this year that makes it really easy to conduct this meeting. I think it's one of a kind, and we're very fortunate to have this in play at this particular time.
Chair Jones, this is Tom Answer. I'm sorry, I was a little slow on my unmute button this morning. Can I?
Go ahead, Commissioner Antor.
I apologize for being a little late. Hey, I just wanted to say a few weeks ago, I put a app on my phone. It's a scanner. So I'm able to listen to Kent County Dispatch and listen to our officers out there. And the first night I listened to it, I was really struck by the amount of domestic disputes. I couldn't believe it was the middle of the week, and I'm hearing all this unending domestic disputes. And also a lot of calls to check on the well-being or medical calls where our officers are literally walking in and they're advised before they go in the house that there's a risk, virus risk going in. So they have to put on all their PPE, and they're walking into sometimes, who knows, it could be a petri dish. They have no idea what they're walking into. And law enforcement has changed so much over the years since I was a police officer, and the level of professionalism I hear on the scanner from the officers and dispatch is really incredible. And just for the heck of it, I thought, I'm gonna log on to New York City Police Department and listen to what's going on over there. And the difference is just staggering. Very proud of our local law enforcement professionalism, and just a shout out to them, because they truly are on the front lines of this. And I don't think people sometimes realize how tough it can be out there. So thank you for the opportunity to say that.
Commissioner Antor. Wayman, do you see any other hands?
No.
All right, with that, we need a motion for adjournment, right? Or do I just adjourn, Linda?
You can just adjourn.
All right, we will adjourn. Our next meeting date is May 5th. Thank you.